You ever find something weird in your house and wonder, what's this doing here? Now imagine finding something 700,000 years old and it looks suspiciously human. That's exactly what happened in Petralona, Greece, and what they dug out of that cave has been messing with science ever since. Because this isn't just a skull, it's a riddle with a jaw missing, a timeline broken, and an ego-shattering question attached. Who the hell were we before we were us? Let's break down the 10 mind-blowing facts behind the Petralona Skull, one of the most controversial, confusing, and terrifyingly human discoveries ever made. 1. The accidental discovery that shook science. It's 1960. A villager named Christos Arianides is poking around a cave in northern Greece, probably expecting bats or old wine barrels. Instead, he finds a skull stuck to the wall, literally fossilized into the rock like it was trying to escape history itself. When scientists got their hands on it, they froze. The skull wasn't fully human, but it wasn't not human either. It was like evolution hit shuffle and created a remix between Homo erectus, Neanderthal, and Mus. And that's where the nightmare began. But the first question wasn't what it was when it was 2. The dating disaster. Trying to date the Petralona Skull was like trying to find the expiration date on an immortal vampire. Some tests said it was 170,000 years old. Others said 700,000. That's not a small difference. That's dinosaurs were gone versus humans were barely thinking about fire. Every scientist who studied it seemed to pull a different number out of their beaker. It was chaos until recent. A team from the Institut de Paléontologie Humaine in France decided to bring modern tech to the fight and finally pin down a minimum age that blew everyone's minds. 3. The science that dates the undateable. The researchers used a technique called uranium series dating, or U-series for short. It's basically nuclear chemistry meets archaeology. Here's the fun version. Water drips into a cave, leaving behind minerals with tiny traces of uranium. Over time, uranium decays into thorium at a super predictable rate. By measuring that ratio, scientists can calculate exactly when those minerals formed, kind of like checking the timestamp on Earth's memory card. So, when they tested the mineral layer on top of the skull, they got a minimum age. 286,000 years old. Minimum. Translation. The skull is at least that ancient and could be much, much older. And that number puts it in a strange, impossible era, because at that time, we weren't supposed to exist. Number 4. The skull that defies labels. Let's talk anatomy. The Petralona Skull looks like it was built by a committee that couldn't agree on a design. It's got a thick brow ridge like Homo erectus, a curved skull base like Homo heidelbergensis, and a brain capacity getting close to modern humans. In short, it's a biological mashup. If human evolution was a movie, this thing is the missing sequel between caveman and us, and nobody wrote the script. It's not Neanderthal. It's not sapiens. It's something else. Something that shouldn't be there but is. 5. The forgotten cousin theory. Some researchers now believe the Petralona Skull belonged to a unique species, one that coexisted with early Neanderthals in Europe. Think of it as a side branch on the human family tree that grew wild before getting pruned by time. They call it a more primitive population, but one smart enough to survive in Ice Age Europe before modern humans were even a thing. Basically a cousin that showed up uninvited to the evolutionary reunion, made everyone uncomfortable, and then vanished. But here's where things get even weirder, because not everyone agrees on who it belongs to, or even where it came from. 6. The academic battle royale. The discovery split scientists faster than a Reddit comment section. One cam said it was Homo erectus, another said heidelbergensis, some argued early Neanderthal, and a few whispered a completely unknown species. For decades, Greek researchers fought to prove it was the oldest European human fossil. Others called it a misidentified hybrid, or worse, a scientific hoax. The debates got so heated that for years the skull was literally locked away in a university basement. Yeah, science went full Area 51 on its own fossil. But now that it's back under the microscope, one fact is clear. It doesn't fit in any known box, and maybe that's the point. 7. The cave that became a time capsule. Petralona Cave isn't just a random hole in a mountain, it's a prehistoric museum frozen in time. Inside, archaeologists found animal bones, stalactites, calcite layers, and stone tools. It's like the cave was sealing off its secrets layer by layer, waiting for someone curious enough to look closer. And those calcite layers, they're the ones that help scientists date the skull because the uranium trapped inside them acts like an atomic clock. So, in a way, the Earth itself timestamped the mystery for us. But what was this being doing there to begin with? 8. The clues hidden in its face. Every angle of the skull tells a story. The brow ridge screams primal power. The forehead hints at intelligence. The thick bone structure, adaptation to cold, to predators, to survival. This wasn't just a dumb brute, this was a survivor. The combination of traits puts it somewhere between Homo erectus and Homo neanderthalensis, but close enough to sapiens that you could almost imagine having a conversation before remembering you're talking to something from the Ice Age. So, who was it? A failed experiment of evolution, or a clue that our ancestry is way messier than we admit? 9. The global puzzle, the Petralona Skull, isn't alone in its weirdness. Fossils with similar features have popped up in Arago, France, Bodo, Ethiopia, and Kabwe, Zambia. All show that evolution wasn't a straight line, it was a global web of overlapping species trading traits like Pokemon cards. And if Petralona proves one thing, it's this. There wasn't one moment when we became human. There were many. Each species left fingerprints, and the Petralona Skull is one of the clearest. But if it's that important, why isn't it famous like Lucy or the Neanderthals? Number 10. The mystery that still haunts evolution. Because it breaks the narrative. Science loves neat timelines, but this skull is a glitch in the code. It suggests that Europe may have hosted multiple parallel species of humans long before Homo sapiens arrived. That our history isn't linear, it's layered. And that maybe deep in that Greek cave lies proof that we weren't the first humans to call this continent home. The Petralona Skull forces us to ask, what if we're not the pinnacle, just the latest draft? Picture this. For hundreds of thousands of years, generations of beings walked, hunted, and dreamed across ancient Europe. Their bones turned to stone. Their names vanished, and one skull, trapped in the walls of a cave, waited patiently for us to find it. Now we have. And it's looking back silently, stubbornly reminding us that the story of humanity is far from finished. If this story made you go, wait, what? Then you, my friend, are part of the curious tribe. Hit that like button so the algorithm knows you're into real mysteries, not just clickbait ones. Subscribe for more stories where science meets suspense and history fights back against what we think we know. And drop a comment. If this skull could talk, what do you think it would say? Because after 300,000 years of silence, maybe it's finally ready to speak.